Hey, it's Jerome here. So really looking forward to speaking with you. I just thought I'd film you this quick video before we speak, so you know a bit more about what it is that we do, and you can kind of see it through the eyes of someone who was sat exactly where you were sat about a year ago and managed to go through this journey, losing 30 kilos, despite being a very busy guy who has a business that's running 7 days a week. And he achieved a 30 kilo loss without living in the gym, without eating rabbit food, and without sacrificing family time. So hope this is useful. So a little bit about Mark, right? Who is he? So he runs a riding school, right? So 7 days a week, very busy business, multiple staff, so much stuff going on, very high stress as well. It's a family business. So there's a lot on his plate. And as a result of all this stress, like he had been yo-yoing for a long time, going up and down, trying meal prepping, intermittent fasting, eating cleaner. He'll go on a good spell, lose a bit, but then just never really be consistent with it. And as a result of this kind of yo-yoing and being overweight, he was getting really concerned about his health. He had this kind of history of heart attacks from his grandfather, and his brother was having a triple bypass surgery. And he was starting to think, I don't want to go down that road, so I've got to change. All right. And also just day to day, his show jacket, as you can see in this image, was getting a bit tight. And he wanted to make a change. Right. He didn't like the way he felt, he didn't like the way his body was, and wanted to feel more confident. Okay. And look, that's what happened, right? Starting at 98.6, ended up around 68 kgs. Same jacket here, looking a lot less tight, as you can see. But it almost didn't happen, right? So about a couple of days in, and during the initial call as well, Mark was like pretty fearful. He was like, I've failed so many times before. I think I'm just going to pay money this time and fail again. All right. Jerome, I don't think this is me. Let's not do it. All right. And luckily, I was able to calm him down and say, look, man, it's normal. It's fear. When you failed so many times before, I get why you're scared, or I get why you doubt yourself. And luckily, Mark trusted me enough to say, okay, I'm still nervous, but I'm going to proceed anyway. And now he's in a completely different spot, right? So if you're in this sort of place where you've tried a lot, you failed a lot, then stop blaming yourself. You've probably just been doing the wrong stuff. All right. Just like Mark. So here's the sort of stuff that you was trying, right? So the early morning gym sessions, when you're disrupted sleep, young kids, it's very hard to be in the gym at 5 a.m. if you were up at 3, right? Cutting carbs, eating clean, right? That stuff works for a bit, but then you can't sustain it. So real life kicks in. Third thing he tried was just like doing it alone, like relying on willpower. Like I just need to be more disciplined, and that will be fine. Maybe the lead up to a holiday, you'll lose some weight, but when you don't have that like motivator, what happens? You fall off, right? And usually the approach that is tried is that all or nothing mentality, all or nothing approach of like, cut this out, cut that out, very strict diet, in the gym every day. And that will work. But again, when you can't sustain it, the results stop, right? None of these things are like a criticism of Mark, because this is what the fitness industry sells to you. This is the stuff that you see. So I don't blame anyone for trying and failing at this sort of stuff. But why doesn't it work? Like, how are we different to that? The biggest sort of place that this sort of stuff falls down is like the starting point, right? It treats everyone as the same, right? Every person gets basically the same plan. You'll get like calorie tracking, hit the gym, whatever the plan is, meal plans, whatever. But you can have one guy who's like ready for that stuff, but another guy who's highly stressed, his sleep isn't good, like his energy's bad, he's like limping through the day. Then you ask him to do that stuff, it's just going to fail, right? So if you're that sort of person, you shouldn't be doing that. And we don't do that in the program. We assess where you're at, whether you are ready for, training or not, or you need to be eased in, and we need to work on recovery first. All right. Because if you don't do that, if you just, steam on ahead with it, something generic, after 3 weeks, it just kind of falls off. And again, you blame yourself. You're back to square one. So before we did anything with Mark, we did a diagnostic process where we figured out who he is. He's someone who has a high workload, 7 day a week, high stress. He has a tendency to stress eat on the go. So that's a different problem to solve, right? Than someone who just like needs to track calories or needs to go on meal plan. Stress eating, we need to solve that problem, or the weight's not going to go anywhere, right? So it's very specific and it's very different for each person on what the approach needs to be. Second sort of thing that we do that's different is analyze that in more detail, as in like call it a handbrake. That's the kind of analogy here. Try and drive with a handbrake on, you're not going to get any far, right? So what is your handbrake? Well, for some guys, it might be that high stress. It might be that poor sleep, messing with your hormones, messing with your ability to control your diet. There's a very big link between sleep and nutrition. Most guys aren't aware of that. So, but for Mark specifically, it was this kind of, we call it a plateau trap, where he'd lose weight, he'd hit a sticking point, go through a stressful period, mentally check out, stop losing weight and think, oh, what's the point? Right. That was his pattern. Right. So it's different for everyone. Once we have the analysis of what is your handbrake? What is the thing that's actually holding you back? Here's the thing fix for that. Then you're so much more likely to be successful because you're just doing the right stuff for you. Okay. And third and final thing is just like a plan that fits around reality of being a father, right? Because we don't sleep well. We're highly stressed. We work long hours. We're providers. We have multiple relationships to look after. There's a lot on the plate of a modern father, right? So we need to fit it into that. Well, there's 3 ways we do that. 3 ways we did it with Mark specifically as well. Better stress and sleep management. It's the sort of stuff that most guys don't think about. They just think, I need to be in the gym. I need to be eating better. But if your battery's empty, you won't do that stuff, right? So getting you actually more energetic, as we did with Mark, so you're able to follow the plan is really, really first important step for most guys. Secondly, we just implemented family meals. Like, so for example, Mark ate whatever his family ate every night and he still lost 30 kilos. All right. How is that possible? You're thinking, well, usually because the evening meal isn't the problem. It's the stuff that happens around that. Okay. And again, most guys will think like, well, you need to be in the gym a lot. Well, Mark trained 2 hours a week, right? 4 30-minute sessions spread across the week at home with some dumbbells, and he got great results. So you do not need to be in the gym multiple times a week. And actually, it's not the best idea for most guys to try and be in the gym more than a couple of hours a week. And as you can see, 30 kilos lost. Within 3 months, he was about 19 kilos down. And in the end, about 8 months in, he lost about 30 kilos, got down to 68 kgs, and he's maintaining around 70 kgs now. All right. So yeah, as he said, and maybe you've seen Mark in one of the other videos, I've not been at that weight since I got married 12 years ago. All right. Not just about the weight loss though. It was about the brain fog lifting. He was clearer thinking, sharper decisions every day. The business ran better as a result, sleeping better, having real energy. His gut issues went as well. Indigestion went, and obviously the confidence to fit in his clothes and feel good in who he is was there as well. All right. So massive, massive changes from that. And of course, this isn't just a one-off. There's many, many other examples that I could have pulled in. You got Dave here, who lost a massive 45 kilos, completely transformed himself. You got Ryan here, who lost about 20 kgs as well. Highly stressed individual, like really bad sleep. So, we had to fix those things first. Dave, 20 kilos down. Lewis, 20 kilos down. Got Jay here, lost like 30 kilos. Doug, who was a bit leaner at the start, lost 10 kilos. James, another highly stressed individual, lost 10 kilos, looks much better. And Chris as well, who lost about 20 kilos. And there's been 350 other dads who have been transformed already. So if they found the courage and, they made themselves enough of a priority to do it and got amazing results from doing that, why couldn't you? And these are just some of the guys who are kind enough to leave a review on Google. So you're probably thinking, well, that's amazing for those guys, but I don't think I could do that. Right. Well, first thing is I know you're probably busy. You're a dad, right? And the common thing is I don't have time, right? And neither did any of these guys really. They don't have a ton of time, especially Mark, 7-day-a-week business. But when you are actually getting results and when you're following something that's fitted to your schedule, it's so much easier to make the time, all right? And because you're going to get benefit from it. So you're going to carve out that time because, if you had a guarantee that you would lose 10 kilos in a week, would you carve out 5 hours? Of course you would. Obviously, it's an extreme example and it's not that quick, but that's the point. If you're getting results, you will find the time. Secondly is like that self-doubt that you probably have of like, I've done things before. It's not work. I can't, those guys are great, but I couldn't possibly do that. Right. And that's just a belief that you have because of your history. But that doesn't have to be your future. As I said to you in that second slide, Mark had that moment where he wanted to quit as well, but he didn't. All right. He had that fear, but he pushed through that fear and backed himself. And the only way you ever know is if you try, push past the fear of failure. Okay. Third and final thing is like, can I invest in myself? Am I someone who does that? All right. It's a common belief. It's like, the money's for the family. It's not for me. Well, aren't you worth this? And even if you don't think you're worth being happy, healthy, confident, do you think your family deserve a version of you that is happy, that is healthy, that is confident? Do you think your family deserve you being there to see your grandchildren? Of course they fucking do, right? Excuse the language. But what are more important things than your health and the version of yourself that you're showing up for your kids, for yourself? Not many, right? So, investing in yourself to achieve those things is important. So the call you're booked into isn't a sales call, all right? It's just a conversation to figure out if this is the right fit for you. So I'll ask what's going on, what you've tried before, and why it hasn't worked. So at least, even if we don't end up working together, you're going to get a ton of clarity on what the real problem is and how to solve it. Okay. So my promise to you is I'll only talk you through the process if I actually feel like it's the right fit for you. If I don't, I can send you another direction. All right. So there's no pressure, no hard close, just an honest conversation, and look forward to speaking with you.